All-Star Game voting is out right now. Which of your Toronto Blue Jays are going to make the cut?
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Blue Jays is brought to you by the Tax Network USA. Did you know that it's never too late to resolve your tax issues with the IRS? Don't wait. Reduce your tax debt and get help from a team of licensed tax professionals. Call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. Carter. Actually, I should do this every time. I keep forgetting to. I'm Brady Wasco. He's Carter First. You can follow us on Twitter, Braden5Wasco, Carter First 2, and on Instagram and TikTok for all the shorts and reels and whatever, at Locked On Blue Jays as well. Drop the subscription if you're new here on YouTube. As we notice, a lot of you guys aren't subscribed. Helps us out, puts us at the top of your guys' page. We also have a big announcement coming probably next week because I, for some reason, just can't get it figured out. So that'll be coming probably Monday, I'm hoping. Maybe Tuesday. I'm going to make a phone call and see what I can do.
Maybe Wednesday, maybe Thursday. I don't know. Well,
might be 2 weeks.
Hopefully sooner than later. Yeah, it's been in the works for a little bit here. We've been talking about it behind the scenes for a long time. We just want to make sure we get it right for the first time. Obviously, we don't want to be putting nonsense out there into the world. So yeah, if it takes us a little bit longer to get the quality over quantity and just how quickly we get it out, I think we're definitely going to take that into consideration. But yeah, we're going to get into some all-star voting because every single Toronto Blue Jay obviously deserves to be in the all-star game with how good of baseball they're playing, right? No, but realistically, there are a few guys that definitely deserve their flowers. It's nice that we can kind of get into some individual performances instead of the Toronto Blue Jays baseball team as a whole. Kind of just give their guys some props because there's not a lot of positives on the Toronto Blue Jays. So we might as well get into some of our all-stars on the Toronto Blue Jays team. So Braden, I guess I'll just send it back to you for the first one. I guess we'll do one if I agree with you, then I'll get into it, but then we'll kind of just go back and forth, kind of see how this plans out.
Yeah, for sure. So my number one, I think, I don't know if I want to start pitching or hitting.
We can start pitching.
I'll start pitching. It's Jose Barrios. Without a doubt, he's going to be in there. He's had an unbelievable season, and he deserves it more than anybody on this team, probably. Just been the rock of this team so far this season, and I'd be really happy to see him get in there.
Yeah, you definitely can't go wrong with Jose Barrios, a guy that just goes out there and you pretty much know he's going to throw 6 innings, 2 earned runs, and then probably get a no decision. So with Jose Barrios, he's just unbelievable. Not a strikeout guy, but has disgusting stuff. Just has weak contact all over the baseball field. The one thing about Jose Barrios is he usually does give up a solo shot at some point in the game, and that home run is launched to Narnia. It's just absolutely spit on, just completely launched out there. But again, solo shots don't hurt you unless you're Yusei Kikuchi giving up 4 in a baseball game. But yeah, if you give up 1 or 2 solo shots in the game, I'm not taking a lot away from that. Just going over Jose Barrios' stats real quick. 3.13 ERA, 92 innings pitched, a whip of 1.12. He has 65 strikeouts. What more good can you say about Jose Barrios? Just gives his team a chance to win every single time he goes out there. Only has 22 walks on the year for a strikeout to walk ratio of about 3. Just insane. What a signing for this whole Jose Barrios thing. In 2022, people were very quick to give up on Jose Barrios. Obviously had a very down year. That contract did not look great in that year, but I don't think me or you were ever really fazed by that. Pitchers go through this kind of stuff all the time. You obviously have Kevin Gausman having a little bit of a down year. Eric Swanson, a guy that never would have expected him to be in AAA. So a Jose Barrios bounce back was definitely on the docket for me. And boy, has he ever bounced back, probably being the best pitcher on the Toronto Blue Jays by a fair margin this season.
Yeah, Carter, I know we always talk about it, but this team is built with 2 aces. We got pair of aces, and we're lucky to have them. And Jose Barrios has been the better of those 2 this season. So, yeah, I don't know. I think overall, I don't believe that the public can vote on pitchers going to the All-Star game. But, I think he'd be the obvious choice for everybody, and I'm pretty sure that he's going to get in.
Oh, if he doesn't, it's criminal. Jose Barrios just goes out there and just is dominant, to say the least. He's so good, man. Like, that slurve he has is ridiculous. The fact he's not throwing his four-seam fastball just completely changed his pitching style, and that's what's made him so effective since the year of 2022. A guy that's definitely deserving of it. Doesn't really get the flowers that he deserves a lot of the time. So Jose Barrios, for me, is a lock to be in this All-Star game. So I'm going to continue this pitching trend. I only have 3 All-Stars. I know you said you have 4. So I think this one is probably non-negotiable as well, making a little bit of a tougher case now. And it's going to be interesting to see how long he's out for, but I'm still throwing him in for right now. And that's Yimi Garcia. He has been absolutely ridiculous this season. A little bit worse as of late. Obviously got injured in that last start, gave up a 2-run bomb. I'm not taking away a lot from that. He had elbow discomfort. You could tell right from the get-go that he didn't look like himself. But you take out that game, this guy had a 1.97 ERA on sub-2 ERA. His whip right now is still 0.79 over 28 innings pitched. Had some injury struggles this year, but hasn't really let that affect him too much at all. It's the second time being on an IL stint. So it's, with Yimi Garcia, like a huge role with the Toronto Blue Jays team. Obviously, with Jordan Romano being out, Eric Swanson just not being himself whatsoever. You needed Yimi Garcia to step up. You needed him to be a very effective relief pitcher on this team. And he has been one of the best on this roster so far this season. Can't say enough about Yimi Garcia. Again, a guy that people were pretty quick to discredit again in 2023, had a little bit of a down year, but boy, did he ever bounce back. Had an unbelievable spring training, started off the season just being ridiculous. I think at one point he had like a 0.7 ERA on the season. Obviously that is not sustainable. It's very tough to keep those numbers, but Yimi Garcia has just been electric to watch this entire season.
Yeah, Carter, he was one of my guys as well. I think he, again, one of those guys who just can't pass up with the season they're having. I mean, he's pretty much stepped up and taken, I don't want to say taken Jordan Romano's role, but since Jordan Romano's been injured, Yimi Garcia was that guy, and I think he fit in really well. There was even debates going on of should Yimi be the guy that we turn to in high leverage ninth inning situations. And I think it was a fair argument that people were making. I think we even talked about it on here a few times. So Yimi Garcia, for me, this is an easy choice, 100%. Carter, I do want to get into sort of the hitters or hitter in your case. I have two. You have one. So I'm going to name the first guy, and then we'll see if that's the guy you're talking about or not. My first guy is obvious, I think, and that's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I think name recognition, face the franchise still. He's a guy that's going to be in the All-Star game 100%.
I mean, just looking at the AL with these first basemen, I don't want to discredit Vladdy too much here, but like you got Ryan Mountcastle, you have Josh Naylor. Other than that, do you really have a first baseman that's hitting that well this season? I don't really think so. I think if you're looking at the All-Star voting, I think Vladdy is number one right now. We'll get into the full rankings later on, but Vladdy's number one. I think Mountcastle is number two, and Josh Naylor was number three. Josh Naylor's kind of on the loose this year. He's a Canadian. Obviously, Vladdy was born in Montreal as well. So it's nice to have two Canadians for first baseman in the top three of voting. I think I would have Josh Naylor personally over Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but Vladdy's been a very good hitter this season. And one thing that I was kind of just looking at comments just all over our podcast, other Blue Jays topics, stuff like that, pages, all the 9 yards. And Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is hitting in an offense that just gives him literally zero protection. Behind him, he has Bo Bichette, who's not hitting well at all. In front of him, he's had a million players, whether it's been George Springer at points, David Schneider at points, Danny Jansen at points, whatever it is. If you look at like the Los Angeles Dodgers lineup, obviously this is a tough comparison to make because the Dodgers just unbelievable team. With Mookie Betts, they have in there normally Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, Will Smith, Teoscar Hernandez. There's a lot of protection in that lineup. And that doesn't allow you to just walk the entire house because you have five guys that can hit the baseball very hard. Look at Vladimir Guerrero Jr. You have the opportunity to pitch around him, not really throw him anything good. If you walk Vladimir Guerrero Jr., it's not going to be the worst thing in the world because Bo Bichette, anyone behind him, Dalton Varsho has been good at points. The other guys, George Springer is always sitting high up in this lineup. You're not really afraid to go after a lot of these guys. So that allows pitchers to go at Vladimir Guerrero Jr. They can just work the corners the entire time, work at his weak spots. You don't really have to challenge Vladimir Guerrero Jr. because this offense has been so bad. So the fact that he's hitting 278 on the season, 7 home runs, obviously you want that number to go up a little bit. 30 RBIs, an OPS of 759. Not stats that are necessarily jumping off the page, but Vladdy has been the best hitter on the Toronto Blue Jays this season. Obviously, you get a little bit of that name recognition. He's always going to be in the All-Star voting pretty much no matter what, unless he's having a George Springer type year. But definitely a deserving player, should be in the All-Star game. And yeah, that is my first baseman. The only issue with Vladdy that I have at some points is he makes some of the most atrocious errors that you've ever seen in your life. Obviously, one time this year, he had a ball that he just whiffed on at first base. But overall, Vladdy he's not the greatest defender. But again, a lot of first basemen aren't that good of defenders. Vladdy can scoop the ball very well. He can obviously do the splits as well. So you want your first baseman to be able to catch the baseball, and Vladdy can do that 99.9% of the time. And when he has one of the best exit velocities in the league, he hits the ball so hard all the time. As soon as he can start elevating the baseball, those home run numbers are going to come. The doubles are going to come. I'm not necessarily worried about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. This team has a ton of other offensive problems, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is not one of them.
Yeah, Carter, I agree with you. I mean, there's not much I can say to dispute anything that you're saying. The only problem is I think people would like to see more power from him. I mean, when you look online, some people discredit him, and I think it's just for the power reason, or not the power even. It's just more so the home run numbers is what it is. And of course, you want to see more from Vladdy in that aspect of the game, but I think everything else is doing a really good job, and I can't really take anything away from him in that sense. The other guy that I did have, Carter, and there's some arguments to be made here for sure, but that's Dalton Varsho. Just defensively, I mean, he has the number one DRS, which is of course his defensive run saved in the entirety of the MLB. Obviously, not hitting for average as much as you want him to at all. I mean, he's only hitting a 216. He does have the most home runs on the Blue Jays with 11. So I think that gives him a positive in Blue Jays fans' eyes as well. And don't get me wrong, I totally understand that there's a dispute to this one, but I think that with the outfield position, I think he's probably earned a spot.
Yeah, so usually with the All-Star game for outfielders, they take about 8 in for most scenarios. So just like going over some outfielders just kind of off the top of my head, you got Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, Kyle Tucker, who was injured, Stephen Kwan, we went over, has been ridiculous. Anthony Santander is another guy. But again, yeah, Dalton Varsho can definitely be like, there's a debate for it. I think now that I'm kind of thinking about it, now you went over his defensive stats as well. You look at his WAR, we're top 20 in the league. Definitely an argument for Dalton Varsho to be in there. Obviously, you don't necessarily get the average from Dalton Varsho, but he has 11 home runs. He has been one of the most clutch hitters on the Toronto Blue Jays this entire season. I definitely would not be upset if I saw Dalton Varsho in the All-Star game. Definitely not one of your outfielders that's like, he is a power bat, but not your traditional power bat guy. Most of these power bats are pretty bad defenders overall. So Dalton Varsho kind of does the opposite. He has a good power bat, hits pull side home runs, hits a lot of doubles, and obviously one of the best outfielders, if not the best outfielder in the league. So I would not be upset at all if Dalton Varsho made the All-Star game. I think you're definitely right for saying that. I just don't think that Dalton Varsho has the name recognition yet. I don't think a lot of people are voting for him. And just looking at the outfielder rankings right now, he is 12th on that poll right now. Cedric Mullins is somehow over him, which is absolutely insane. That's just how much the name value matters with some of these All-Star votes. But Dalton Varsho, yeah, just a great player to have on the Toronto Blue Jays. The most important player statistically for the Toronto Blue Jays in wins, defensive runs, you name it. The most impactful player on the Toronto Blue Jays. So, yeah, definitely would not be upset to see him in the All-Star game. But I'll give it back to you to just kind of go over some of where like the other Blue Jays can rank on these rankings. David Schneider's obviously probably up there. IKF is another guy that might be in the conversation. Might will have Spencer Horwitz in there. I know he's only had like 3 games played, but it is what it is. I would love to see Spencer Horwitz in the All-Star game. Obviously not going to happen, but I'll throw it back to you. Just kind of go over some other Blue Jays and where they rank on these ballots.
Yeah, so I'm not going to go over everybody. I mean, I could go over.
I mean, to be fair, there's probably not a lot of people to go over anyway. Looking at the
No,
Blue Jays offense.
no. For catchers, Danny's ranking 4th right now, behind Adley Rutschman, Salvador Perez, and Jose Trevino. And it's a pretty big gap after those 3. So Danny is in the conversation because it's a very big drop off after that. So yeah, I don't think he's really got much of a shot, but I think he's one guy that's, when he was hot, if he was able to stay somewhat around there, he maybe would be more so in the conversation. For first baseman, Vladdy is leading by a landslide right now, and he's well deserving. Like we talked about, Ryan Mountcastle's sort of coming up behind him, and then Josh Naylor is a little bit further back actually. So a little bit. I don't know if that's shocking because it's the Orioles, and Ryan Mountcastle just has a little bit more recognition than Naylor does.
Yeah, there is some like popularity that obviously goes into this. Like I said, like I'll just go over one thing here. Like I said, Dalton Varsho is 12 on the list. 13 is George Springer.
Yeah.
So that's just right there shows you that it is sort of a popularity contest. George Springer has been one of the worst hitters in the MLB this entire season. This guy should not even touch the All-Star field whatsoever. I think Santiago Espinal back in 2022, 2021, whatever that All-Star game was more deserving at this point than George Springer to be in an All-Star game. And I'll give it back to you to kind of go over the rest of the rankings.
Yeah, so second baseman, a guy that I want to see in there. I think he's a fan favorite, but of course, I don't necessarily think that he's got the league recognition at all. Yeah, for Blue Jays fans, he's everybody's favorite, and that's of course David Schneider, ranked 6th right now in all second baseman in the AL. Does he deserve it? Probably not. But from a Blue Jays fan perspective, I think he's by far one of the fan favorites on this club. So I like him in that aspect, but is he deserving enough? Probably not. Third baseman, I don't actually even know here. They have IKF listed at 5, and it's not close. He's not even touching it. But good for him. I mean, I think that's high for what he's been doing, and I think he's having a great season for what we thought we were going to get. So IKF, I got to give him his props there, but he's just not going to touch it. Shortstops, Bo Bichette ranks 5 and not close to Corey Seager at number 4. And then Anthony Volpe, Bobby Witt at 2, and Gunnar Henderson obviously at number 1. And that's just tough. Bo's just not having a good enough season where he's going to touch the leaderboard in this sense. Another guy that I thought with the name recognition might be higher, but it's just not falling that way. Justin Turner for designated hitters ranks number 6, and again, a guy that's just not going to be in it. Maybe if he continued to somewhat the extent he started the year on, he might have had an option, but now, I mean, just it's not even close.
With Brent Rooker's behind him, and Brent Rooker's having a way better season. And I just want to quickly go over like the third baseman and shortstop thing. For third baseman, you have Jose Ramirez, Jordan Westberg, and Rafael Devers. Like they're just better than IKF simply. Like IKF's not in the same conversation as these guys. And then you look at the shortstops: Gunnar Henderson, Bobby Witt, Anthony Volpe, all having unbelievable years. Corey Seager, you said, kind of up by a landslide. These guys are just having simply better years than Bo Bichette. You get a little bit of the name recognition from Bo Bichette. But yeah, Gunnar Henderson and Bobby Witt are just on a different planet right now. It's absolutely insane. So fun to watch. But yeah, just we'll go over. And designated hitters, I guess we can go over as well. Giancarlo Stanton kind of having a bounce back season. A guy that I said is going to be terrible again this season. Kind of proved me wrong a little bit here, hitting for a little bit more power. Obviously, a Yankees guy. Yankees guys are going to get votes pretty much no matter what, if they're good or bad. And I'll take over the last segment here for the outfielders. Like I said, Dalton Varsho's at number 12. Number 13 and 14 are just laughable, man. It's George Springer and Kevin Kiermaier. Like, what are we doing here? Like, there's nothing to be said about that. It's absolutely ridiculous. Again, you go down the list, like, there's not a ton of guys that are good when you get down to 12, 13, 14. Like, we have Randy Rosarena on here at 20, who's just having another terrible season. Again, he's probably better than George Springer, but not necessarily a guy that I would vote for the All-Star game. But the top guys they have here is Judge, Soto, Kyle Tucker, who's still getting votes, even though he's been out for a while. Stephen Kwan, Anthony Santander, Alex Verdugo having a decent season. Colton Cowser, who's so good. I love Colton Cowser, even though he does play on the Orioles. Mike Trout, who hasn't played in forever. Again, name recognition, just another one of those things. Julio Rodriguez only at 10, surprising. Cedric Mullins at 11. I mean, for this Blue Jays team, there's like you look at the offense, there's just simply not a lot of guys that deserve to be in the All-Star game. If Davis Schneider, that's one guy I kind of want to get into. If he would have kind of continued his hot start to the season and had that for a consistent period of time, I think he would have been higher up on the All-Star voting, but it's gone cold a little bit as of late. But overall, I mean, you get Vladdy, you should get Jose Barrios. Yimi Garcia with the injury, it might be interesting to see if he does get in there. I still think he's deserving. And then Dalton Varsho, definitely another guy I would not be upset to have. You can make arguments about Yusei Kikuchi, Chris Bassett. Again, if he started off the season a little bit better, I think there's more of an argument for that. But overall, you get probably 3 Toronto Blue Jays, possibly 4. I think there's definitely an argument for Dalton Varsho. I think the way the season has gone, the way you look at this, again, it's just the All-Star game. I don't really care, to be honest, about the All-Star game. I'd rather have the Blue Jays actually winning games and focus on their season. But it's definitely nice to have some representation in the AL for the All-Star game.
Yeah, Carter. And I mean, you know what? We could talk about these guys. I mean, it's pretty much just going over stats and where everybody lands. And the likability comes into it a lot too. And I think that's where David Schneider picks up a lot of his points. And I would love to see him. I think he's just one of the best character guys. If you listen to his story, I think they did a feature on him on the broadcast. I guess that was a couple months ago now, but it was excellent. Guy's gone through a lot. His family support system is just fantastic too. Really, really just inspiring guy. But Carter, we're going to get into some other Jays news coming up here. And then, of course, we still have their series preview, and we've taken this long as of usual. So we'll hit a quick break and then be right back. Today's episode brought to you by Stitch Fix. With Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, size, and budget. They do all the shopping for you. It's the easiest way to update your wardrobe. As I always tell you guys, my wardrobe consists of jerseys and sweaters and a couple pairs of jeans. That's about all she wrote. So I could definitely use the help, and Stitch Fix really helps me get that done. My stylist always sends me right pieces, and the fit is on point. It's like they have the style ESP. I don't know how they do it, but they just get it to me. Stitch Fix makes it all so easy. I don't like to shop, and they save me time and effort. Plus, I get outfits that make me look and feel really good. Style that makes you feel and look as good as you want to. Now is the best time to get started with stitchfix.com/MLB and get $100 off. That's $25 off your first 4 boxes for a limited time only. That's stitchfix.com/MLB for $100 off. Stitchfix.com/MLB must redeem within 7 days of sign up. Offer does not include Kids Fix. So, Carter, got some Blue Jays news to get into. Some of the stuff isn't that important, but sort of funny and cool. Vlad, new haircut. I don't know. Let's start there, Carter. What do you think of Vlad's new haircut?
I mean, you got to switch something up to try to get some team success. I know Justin Turner said he kind of looks like Carlos Santana. I think that's actually a pretty good comparison. I like the Vladdy dreads. I think he does look clean with his new haircut. I'm not really reading a whole lot into it. I think Vladdy can kind of do whatever he wants. Maybe it's a publicity stunt. Maybe it's not. Vladdy does like to be the center of attention. But as long as he just continues to hit well, and hopefully it can rub off a little bit on the Toronto Blue Jays. I know David Schneider cut his hair. Maybe that's a theme that's going through the clubhouse. They're not playing very good baseball, so you got to switch something up. And if that comes in the form of a haircut, then sure. I said we need something to change. And I always brought up the Minnesota Twin sausage. Maybe it's a haircut thing for the Toronto Blue Jays. Everyone should just maybe do the buzz cuts. Maybe grow the David Schneider mustaches out. I don't know what it is, but some sort of change is always nice for Toronto Blue Jays players.
Yeah, so apparently reason he did it, he said when he joined the league that when 5 years in, he was going to cut his hair, get rid of the dreads, and go to something shorter. And apparently his daughter as well has been bugging him to cut his hair. So good for him. Funny to see, sort of just very different look. It was a little bit shocking today. Carter, I know we have a ton more to get into. I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, so one thing I just kind of want to go over is the bullpen. Obviously, the bullpen has not been good recently. You look at how depleted it is. It's not really setting yourself up for success. Again, you can go to AAA. There's not really a lot of AAA arms that are going to help you in this scenario. You could explore trades. Obviously, you have Tanner Scott from the Marlins. You have Ryan Helsley from the St. Louis Cardinals. These are more closer options. You have a ton of other options. But again, with the relievers, do you really want to give up your prospects for relief pitchers, especially when your offense is just horrendous? I don't know if it's necessarily going to matter that much. Again, Eric Swanson might be a write-off for this season, unfortunately. But you are going to get Jordan Romano back. Bowden Francis should be in the bullpen. He did pitch an inning in the last game of the Red Sox series. So I think that does mean Yariel Rodriguez has won the 5th rotation spot, which we've kind of been saying on this podcast. So you get Bowden Francis, you get Trevor Richards, Chad Green, Yimi Garcia when he's back. Jordan Romano hopefully can pitch better when he is back. You do have a couple good arms in there. Nate Pearson as a low leverage guy, definitely not complaining. Tim Meza, it's tough out here. Not really not to say about him. The Silver Fox has been good. Zach Pop, I don't hate when he goes out there. But just kind of want to go over some bullpen stats here. So Toronto Blue Jays in team bullpen ERA are the 5th worst in baseball. That's not going to play. In earned runs, it's not great either. They are 9th worst in baseball with whip. There's just so many bad stats here. They're pretty much bottom 10 in every stat. In home runs, they've given up 44 home runs, which leads the league in the bullpen scenario. Just you can't give up the home runs out of the bullpen. It's not going to work out very well, unfortunately. You're looking at strikeouts from the bullpen. They're second last in the league in strikeouts. So not a lot going good for this Toronto Blue Jays bullpen. So again, I don't know what the fix is. It does suck that you have pretty much entire AAA bullpen, but you look at the offense, you pretty much have an entire AAA offense, and it's been better than what the Blue Jays have produced. So this is just more of a realistic look on baseball. Usually when you have injuries, you have to rely on your AAA team. It's usually not going to go well. These guys are most of the time in AAA for a reason. When you look at the pitching staff, there's been a ton of injuries. Manoah's hurt. Mitch White would have been nice in this scenario. It's a ton of different guys that could have made impacts on the Toronto Blue Jays bullpen. But with right now, you're looking at your top 4 probably with guys that you're relying on. Chad Green's your closer. But going into the season, he was going to be like maybe your 4th best guy, your 6th, 7th inning guy. Now you got him in the 9th inning. Trevor Richards has been very good. I don't mind him going out in the 8th inning. But with all your starting pitcher injuries, he's had to be an opener a lot of the time, and that takes him away from the back into the bullpen. We're at a point where Nate Pearson is our 7th inning guy. Don't know how I feel about that. He has been good in scenarios, but not a guy I necessarily want to rely on. That takes me to Bowden Francis. As a guy that's supposed to be your long reliever, he's probably going to have to pitch more in leverage now, especially when you have Tim Meza not pitching very well. Ryan Burr, who just doesn't have a lot of MLB experience. Brandon Little, who just has his moments, but overall not that good. Henny Cabrera, not a high leverage guy. Tim Meza, Tim Meza, man. That's all I got to say about him. But overall, I mean, where are you kind of at with this bullpen? What do you think the Jays have to do to kind of just put something decent out there to not blow every single baseball game the Toronto Blue Jays play?
To be honest with you, Carter, I don't necessarily think it's my biggest worry right now. This until the offense figures it out, it doesn't matter anyway. Yeah, you can maybe grab a couple wins here and there. The teams just don't score some runs, but I mean, overall, you got to figure out the bats before you really start to worry about the bullpen and the pitching staff. And this pitching staff is pretty depleted right now. So I really am not looking too much into it. I think Jordy comes back and he starts to figure it out. I look at Yimmy. Yimmy's going to continue to be good when he comes back. So I think there's options in this bullpen. I mean, Yariel coming back to pick up that fifth spot is going to be nice. Allows Bowden to pitch out of the bullpen as well. I think there's a lot of options that come up the pipeline. It's not good, but it's not my worry right now. My worry has to be this offense, and if a move's going to be made, it's got to be made on the offensive side.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully at the deadline, if this Toronto Blue Jays team is even in a position to compete, you pick up a power bat. Maybe you get a middle relief guy. If you can get a closer or a big guy as well to kind of be a hot shot out of your bullpen, throw some gas that this Toronto Blue Jays team does need pretty desperately. It would be a nice trade, but again, you got to give up a ton of prospects. A team that already does not have a good prospect system, and just one power bat and one bullpen arm fixes Toronto Blue Jays team. I'm not necessarily inclined to think so. But I mean, after this, we've kind of gone over the bullpen. I just have a ton of just random kind of news. Like, it's going to be fairly unorganized, just all over the place. I'll throw it back to you if you have anything else to add about some of these things. Obviously, you went over the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. haircut. That is, again, change is always good, especially when things aren't going well. Jordan Romano update. Jordan Romano had long talks again today, had some plyo work. He'll likely stay in Toronto when the team travels. Hopefully, we'll throw off the mound over the weekend. So, again, Jordan Romano probably still over a week away. Unfortunate news. You want him to be back, especially with how much this Toronto Blue Jays team is struggling. But at the same time, you don't want to rush him back, especially when he had a 6.5 ERA when he was pitching the season. You want him to feel confident. You want him to feel healthy. And you want him to be serviceable out of the bullpen.
Yeah, Carter, I think a lot of pitching is confidence. I think it's what you bring to the mound. It's what you think. I know a lot of pitchers, even when I was playing, a lot of guys said that like they had the feeling of some days they would go out there and not play well. The next day they'd be going up to the mound thinking that they're the best player ever to throw a baseball, and they did well. So that's a big component of it. I think baseball is a huge mental game. So yeah, if we can get Jordy to start getting in the right headspace and get him back to where he was, I think it's a huge help for this ball club.
No, absolutely. We need Jordan Romano to be back because this bullpen is struggling mightily right now. But one guy I want to get into, I made a TikTok short about it, whatever it is. Orelvis Martinez, you call the guy up and you're not playing him. Don't know why that is, but John Schneider offers his explanation, which doesn't really mean anything to me at this point. But Keegan Matheson tweets out, Orelvis Martinez will likely play in a couple of the games this weekend against Cleveland. John Schneider says, apparently the Blue Jays didn't love the matchup against Bayo for tonight, or as in tonight, that would have been posted on Wednesday. But, I mean, I don't care about this matchup stuff, man. Put your best hitters in the lineup at this point. Like, does George Springer match up well against anyone? Does Kevin Kiermaier match up well against anyone? Obviously not. It doesn't matter who you're going to throw in. You want your guys to be able to hit. Again, matchups do mean something. The analytics, again, you got to take that a little bit into account. But also just use your eyes. Like, George Springer can't hit a baseball. Kevin Kiermaier can't hit a baseball. Orelvis Martinez has 16 home runs in AAA, and now you pull him up and you just let him sit for 2 games. That's a very quick way to get somebody who has been hot and hitting well to just not be hot and hit like butt, to say lack of a better term.
Yeah, Carter. I mean, we talked about this on a couple podcasts ago of just being like, if you're going to bring him up, you got to play him because you don't want to stunt his development. A guy who's been hitting the baseball very well. So yeah, I think that's an absolute crock to say that, he can't see Bayo. I think that's crazy. It's different if you have a ton of guys who are all hitting well and you have to make some options. Okay, which matchup is better? But when you have nobody hitting well, then just put out your guys that you're most confident in. And I'm sorry if you think some of these guys you're more confident in than a guy who's absolutely raking in AAA who you could give a shot to. That's complete crap to me.
Hey, well, George Springer's about to get hot, so John Schneider clearly believes in them. So you can't really say that. So put out the guys who you believe in, because that's just not a recipe for success for this Toronto Blue Jays team, unfortunately. But I got nothing to say about this. I'm just going to throw it out there for the podcast. In June, Kevin Kiermaier is over 20 with 9 strikeouts against teams not named the Oakland Athletics. So if you want to be on Kevin Kiermaier's side offensively, I mean, you're wrong. Sorry. That's all I'm going to say about that. One thing I thought was funny about the broadcast on Wednesday is they threw out a Joey Votto stat. Obviously, it's nice to hear anything about Joey Votto after we heard nothing about him for a very long time. but they threw out just his game log, I guess you could say. So hits slash at bat. So he went 0 for 1, didn't have a hit, had 1 at bat, obviously. He did have a walk, so I guess technically it's 2 at bats, but obviously if you know baseball, walks don't count as at bats. And they threw out a swing stat. So the amount of swings Joey Votto took and the pitches he faced. So he faced 9 pitches. He swung at 3. That's great, Joey Votto. I'm glad you're playing baseball, I guess.
If that doesn't encapsulate or whatever the Toronto Blue Jays season as a whole, I don't know what does. You have to put a stat on the screen that says how many times somebody swung the bat. Carter, that's, oh my goodness, that is absurd. You know what? We always talk about like as buddies or whatever, sitting around drinking, and we always say like, what would you want on like your baseball card at like the end of your life if you could look back? It's like, oh, how many beers drank, how many swings I took total playing baseball. Jesus.
Well, it's going to be, for me, it's going to be podcast produced, how many F-bombs I've dropped on the podcast, how much I've talked crap about George Springer, stuff like that will be on my baseball card. But 2 more things I want to go over before we do head to the break here. Again, a stat, I'm not going to read anything else into this. Another thing that just encapsulates the Toronto Blue Jays season. Toronto Blue Jays top 3 in the order have the worst OPS in baseball at 658. That just makes sense. This team is one of the worst teams in baseball in the first inning. For some reason, they usually rake in the second inning. But yeah, you should think in the first inning, you got your top 3 hitters. They should be the best 3 hitters on the team. Clearly not going well, and that just encapsulates the Toronto Blue Jays offense. But we'll get into one positive here. The Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame had some inductees. Russell Martin was one of them. Russell Martin was one of my favorite players back on that 2015 team. A guy that was just so nice to have in the clubhouse. One of the guys that just made the Toronto Blue Jays, a Canadian representing a Canadian baseball club. It's always fun to see. And that's why we're so high on Joey Votto. But congrats to Russell Martin on being inducted. Just a great career all around from that guy.
Yeah, very likable guy, Carter. I mean, that was the peak of my Toronto Blue Jays baseball enjoyment, right? It was those few seasons and Russell Martin being a part of it. Just a guy that I love to watch. He was just electric. He had some big, huge moments. I mean, obviously, I think the one moment, I think he even said this when he was talking on one of the broadcasts, was, of course, when he threw the ball to third base and it hit the batter in that game against Texas. But that'll forever stay with him. But I think overall, I mean, just a great guy. You could just see the personality he brings, the love for Canada, even when he's talking about it. So, yeah, hat tips, whatever you want to say, great for him.
Yeah, just like you said, such a likable guy, a great Canadian. Just nice to see our Canadians being recognized for their impact on the baseball field. So we got a series to preview, obviously. This happened last week. They played a pretty good series. We're pretty up on the Toronto Blue Jays, I'd say. One of the highest we've been in a long time. That's really not saying much, though, because Toronto Blue Jays don't really do a lot of positive things. Then they go in, they get swept by the Boston Red Sox. But yeah, we got the Cleveland Guardians again. We're going to Cleveland this time. I don't know, man. I don't know what I want from the series, but I guess we'll get into that in the next segment. But before we do head there, I want to throw it over one more time. Locked On 24/7 streaming channel, whether it's Locked On Sports Today or the Amazon Fire TV's channel app, whether it's the WNBA, MLB, NHL, NBA, or NFL. College sports, you name it, expert analysis, perfect opportunity to throw it on your TV and just hear people talk sports all day. You're watching this podcast. I'm assuming you're just a big sports fan. We obviously are big sports fans as well. So we do check that out from time to time. You guys have some time available. Great opportunity to check that out. So we're going to head into this Cleveland Guardians series and pitching probables. And I think you want to touch on one other thing. Not sure if you still have that ready or not, but we'll get into that coming up in the next segment. Here on Locked On Blue Jays, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team. Whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs, it's year-round. You know what else is year-round? Collection season. Just because tax season is over, it doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. Over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or finally hit that parlay this season and need help correctly filing, call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockon. See the link in this episode description below.
Oh, shoot. There we go.
You were doing so good with that for a while there.
You know what, Carter? I can't be 100% all the time. I need a couple days where I can be a 95. Whatever. I know we have a series preview to get into, Carter. Sort of something cool. I love the Score app. I know you use it as well. And they came out with their rankings of the City Connect jerseys. So I thought it was cool. Actually, for those of you watching on video, I'll show you. But
this guy just never prepared ever.
I just picked up my Davis Schneider City Connect jersey. Actually, I didn't pick it up. A guy that you'll all know, Skylar Peters down in Toronto. I said, hey, would you do me a favor? Because you can't get Davis Schneider jerseys in the store. He said, yeah, absolutely no problem. So I sent him some money and he got that for me. I thought he was just going to ask for like, hey, grab me two or pay for 2 beers and I'll give it to you for free. But he didn't come through like that. But I thought I'd go over what the rankings were. 9th place, Detroit Tigers, the Motor City. These are the ones that I just really am whatever about. My mom thinks they're the best things in the world for some reason. And I don't know how in the world that's possible, but whatever. They're sort of interesting. The Cardinals are 8th. I actually like those ones. I know a lot of people don't. Phillies are 7th. I think just the colors are very weird. I get what they were trying to do, but it doesn't make any sense to me. The Twins are 6th. Actually, the Twins are sort of interesting. I think it's a very different look, but I sort of like them too. 5th is the New York's Mets, which I love. I really, really like the purple with the gray. It looks very cool. The 4th is the Dodgers. It's that like cotton candy sprinkle or birthday cake.
I think that one's terrible, to be honest, but
it is not great. I just think it's very whatever, honestly. Number 3, the Cleveland Guardians. A lot of people don't like these either. I think they're all right. Again, not anything special. I think they really didn't overly hit on some of these City Connect jerseys. Number 2 is your Toronto Blue Jays. And don't get me wrong, I love the jerseys. I love the black. I think the lettering could have been better on the Toronto. I think me and Carter talk about that all the time. They look way better in person. If you have been seeing them on the TV screen, when you see them in person, they look even better. I really like them. I love the black. I wish they probably would have gone back to the 2011 jerseys. But
those old black Blue Jays ones with the classic logo, hey?
Yeah, I love them. But didn't happen. I like these two. I think with the red undershirts too, they look really good. And number 1's the Tampa Bay Rays. I think these are really cool as well. Do I necessarily think that they're number 1? Not so much. My favorite is the Mets one, to be honest with you. I think it's very, very clean. Carter, how do you feel? Number 2?
Yeah, I mean, they're good jerseys. I think they were very close to having like one of the best jerseys I've seen in a long time. It's just the lettering just throws me completely off. And when like you're watching majority of the Blue Jays games on TV, and it sucks because the lettering is the first thing you see when you're far away, right? So it definitely sucks to see in on TV. But in person, yeah, you show me the jersey. Obviously, I was looking at it. It does look a lot better in person if you're wearing it out. It does look great. But yeah, like this one thing you think the thing they'd probably focus the most on, other than maybe the color of the jersey, is the lettering. So what people actually see. And it's just, they kind of fumbled that. I like the Twins jerseys a lot. I would probably have them as my number 1. Again, it's all up for debate though. Like, is there really a sole number 1 City Connect jersey? I don't think so. It's kind of just on the eye of the person. It's their perspective, what they kind of like, their fashion, design, whatever it is. I don't think anyone will have the same list as anyone else, but I think there are some trends, which these ones, like, specific jerseys are good, and then specific ones are very bad. Like if it's 1, 2, 3, if it's 9, 8, 7, they might switch up a little bit there. But overall, yeah, it's kind of just whatever in my opinion. I think this list is pretty bad, to be honest. I don't really like the scores list. I think you could have did a lot better. But again, City Connect jerseys, it's nice to see teams getting creative with their jersey designs.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, it sort of gives me the vibe a little bit of like when like slow pitch teams make their jerseys, and it's like a bunch of people sitting trying to figure out what to do. I think that's sort of funny because I remember making our slow pitch jerseys, and I think we went out back over like 4 or 5 different designs, and it didn't matter because we play once a week, and we are good. We won 2 years in a row, but it just doesn't matter that much. But ours looks sick too. Maybe I'll show them on here next time. Ricardo, I think let's get into the series preview.
Yeah, so we go to Cleveland to face the Guardians. Obviously, a good series last week, but again, when you play the Red Sox, you have 0 momentum right now. I'm still pretty down on this team. Not as down as I was in the last episode because we did have a little bit of time to get our thoughts together. I mean, looking at these pitching matchups, you would think that the Blue Jays would have a chance, but again, it's the Toronto Blue Jays. This offense is not very good. So For Friday, technically it's to be announced for the Jays, but it's probably going to be Yariel Rodriguez. It is set up perfectly for him against Carlos Carrasco. We did score a lot of runs off Carrasco, a guy that has an over 5 ERA. Should be able to win this game when you look at it from a broad perspective for an average MLB team. Toronto Blue Jays are not your average typical or MLB team, so anything could happen in this game. I would not be surprised if we lost this one. Saturday, Jose Barrios versus Ben Lively. They played very well against Ben Lively the last time they played him. But, I mean, this is just set up for a bounce back. The Guardians are at home. It's going to be another interesting game. And then Sunday, Yusei Kikuchi versus Tristan McKenzie. I actually don't know how Tristan McKenzie's doing this year. I didn't really look into him too much. We obviously didn't see him in the first series. I'm not sure if you have his numbers on you right now.
Yeah,
but
I do. He's 3 for 4 this year with a 4.48 ERA.
I
the
didn't
numbers
think he was that good. But.
Yeah, the numbers don't stand out or anything. I don't think they're completely horrible, but they're obviously not the best either. So sort of one of those middle pitchers.
So, yeah, I mean, what I was trying to do before, I was like, hey, the Toronto Blue Jays get swept, but then they actually got swept for the first time.
Yeah, you talked it into existence. It was your fault. I'm blaming this. This is a Carter first problem.
But I said it the same thing with the Guardians. We actually won a series against the Guardians, who have the 4th best record in baseball. So I mean, I guess I could take some accountability. But I don't want to be associated with the Toronto Blue Jays. Now we have this podcast. How bad of baseball
our name is Locked On Blue Jays.
Like it's just but like I don't want to take any of the blame for this. I didn't put this team together. I wish I would have. Honestly, I think I could have did a better job, honestly, than Ross Atkins in retrospect. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say anymore. Like. They could win this series. It would be nice. Maybe will feel better 3 days from now. But I can't see it happening. I'm so low right now. Like I said on Thursday's podcast, probably the lowest I've been on this team all season. It's just there's no light at the end of the tunnel for me right now. So I'm going to say that they're going to lose this series, but they're going to take one. Honestly, it's probably going to somehow be against Ben Lively. Jose Barrios is probably going to give you a chance to win again, like he always does. So maybe they take advantage of that. Series win, I'm not backing on the team. If they sweep the series, I'll be okay. Like I'll be like, okay, maybe we got something rolling here. I'll kind of be on the roller coaster that Toronto Blue Jays season is. But what are you expecting from this weekend series against the Cleveland Guardians?
I'm expecting a 1-2, 1 for 3, I guess. I would love a 2 for 3. I think it could happen. I don't think that's out of the question. Just with the pitching matchups and everything, I don't know what to expect from Yariel. But I'm gonna go 1 for 3 here. Yeah, I don't know. I really just don't know what to expect anymore of this Blue Jays team. Day to day, it completely changes for me. Yeah, Carter, I don't know. I don't really know what else to say here. I think let's cap off the weekend. We got an exciting weekend coming up. Just a lot going on this weekend. I feel like we got you have slow pitch tonight. I'll be working the Bomber game. Saturday Beer Olympics, which is going to be interesting. We'll see. Me and you never really get too banged up with those things though, because everybody else is usually done by event 3, so then we don't got to worry about anything. And then what else is going on this week? I feel like it's more busy than that.
Sunday recovery day. That's pretty much it for me. I'm not doing too much on the Sunday. The Saturday, they'll be pretty jam packed. Maybe we'll go hit baseballs on Sunday, depending on what kind of shape we're in. But yeah, I mean, we'll be watching the Blue Jays game, I guess, at that point. Hopefully, again, I don't know how I'm going to be feeling on that day. So hopefully the Toronto Blue Jays don't add to my sorrows. But yeah, we need something here. I don't know. I say this every goddamn podcast, but the Jays just continue to let me down. Maybe take the weekend. Obviously, have a Blue Jays game on. You want to watch it, but maybe don't emotionally invest in it like you always do. Have some friends over, have it on in the background, see how the game goes. If they're playing well, definitely pay attention. If they're not playing well, just enjoy your friends' company, enjoy your family's company. Don't try not to get too invested in this Toronto Blue Jays team. Make them earn your attention back. They got to do something. They got to actually win you over because you've been loyal to the Toronto Blue Jays for this entire season, and they haven't done anything for any of us. Let's be honest. They have not made this Blue Jays season fun to watch at all. So make them earn your attention back. Make them actually do something positive for what feels like for once. Hopefully, Raul Martinez actually sees the field this weekend. I know John Schneider said he'll play a couple of games. He better play at least 2 out of 3. If he's not playing 2 out of 3, you might as well just send him back down to AAA if you're not going to use him. At least don't ruin his momentum. Don't ruin his progress as a young baseball player. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. The likes, comments, subscriptions, always appreciated. We have noticed about 70% of you guys are not subscribed. So if you guys are coming back for every video, might as well drop a subscription. It's free. Helps us out a ton. Leave likes, ratings on your streaming services for wherever you listen to your podcast. Before we do it, out Locked On 24/7 streaming channel. Pretty much any sport you can think of, expert analysis. You know the whole 9 yards about that already. So I'm going to leave it at that. Enjoy your weekend. Don't be idiots. I know we're kind of going to be idiots, but I mean, try not to take away from us too much. Obviously, don't drink and drive. Don't do anything stupid like that. But Braden, you got anything else to add for this weekend series here?
No, I'm going to enjoy some Blue Jays baseball. I'm going to try to enjoy it. I'm going to try to just take the end result out of my head. I'm just going to enjoy watching baseball. And the other part of it I'm going to do is cheer for Team Red in Beer Olympics. That's my end goal, is to drink more beers than anybody else this weekend and try to forget the Toronto Blue Jays, how bad they're doing.
We say a lot about these small wins, but I mean, at this point, maybe we got to embrace that. We got to embrace the small wins because this team just doesn't win baseball games. So we got to take the little things, maybe. If that's you having your own little feat, winning your own competition, drinking the most beers of the weekend, I can't take that away from you. That's something you earned. So, I mean, maybe you'll win the award for drunkest guy at Beer Olympics, which is something that might be a competition for a lot of people out there.
I am the drunkest Blue Jays fan. That's the goal of the year. I want a plaque up in Rogers Center of this guy being the drunkest guy at Toronto Blue Jays.
I don't know. If people are watching Toronto Blue Jays games, I feel like a lot of people might give you a run for your money. But saying that, thank you guys for watching and have a good weekend.